and you are very welcome. This is Fintan Dunne with the beautiful truth on the 5th of April 2021, and a Betfair Trump Punters update for you all. Thanks very much for joining me, folks. Also, news of a determined attempt to bribe me, an update for our Australian and New Zealand friends, and a situation report on where we're all at. So first off, I'd like to welcome those of you who have joined the list in recent times and who haven't seen earlier videos. You're very welcome. You'll find our stuff on the Telegram group. Just search for Betfair Trump on Telegram. You'll find us. And we have a barrister, a practicing barrister now, who is among us seeking justice. And that must be encouraging to you all. It certainly is to me, because it shows that even barristers need occasionally to go searching for justice. It makes the world seem somehow a fairer place, doesn't it? So welcome to you all. And we are now, congratulations to those of you who have battled with Betfair Chat and gotten your details and your IBAS dispute number and submitted your claim to Betfair. Congratulations, because you have taken the first step on your best chance to get some kind of a reasonable settlement out of Betfair by doing that. And I'll have details on why the legal route is not preferable as we go now. But you have taken the first and most important step. And there are 4 good reasons why submitting a claim like that is good, not just for UK and European claimants, but also for our friends in Australia and New Zealand. And the first of those 4 reasons is that there's a huge difference, which enthusiasts for legal action have not realized perhaps, but there is a huge difference between what a court is going to do in relation to this case and what IBAS is going to do. You see, a court and a judge may rule and indeed say that what happened may not be fair, but it's legal. You've heard that expression, I'm sure. And there are occasions when things happen that aren't fair, but that are, unfortunately, for those whom they happen to, legal. And all a court can do is determine what was legal, and it's not really concerned with what was fair. But IBAS's role is to be fair. IBAS are charged with responsibility to be fair to both parties, both the gambling company and the person who bet money with them. Their duty is to be equitable and fair. And that is a lower burden on you. And that is why you have the first great reason why you have significant advantage with IBAS. We're very lucky, those of us who didn't bet with Betfair Australia, that IBAS is there. And that's a key reason. And the second reason why IBAS is a good idea is to do with the statement which IBAS put out. They put this statement out about the election where they said that the issues of when the market was closed were the arguable issues here, whether it should have been 7th of November, 6th of January, 20th of January, or 14th, as it turns out, the date. So IBAS has already itself, on the public record, said that there are arguable issues around this question of when the market should have been timed to foreclosure. And that's the core of our argument, that the early closure of the market, the untimely closure of the market, despite the advice Betfair had issued, is precisely why we suffered losses. Second good reason to go to IBAS. Third good reason to go to IBAS is free. Absolutely free. Doesn't cost you a dime, just some time to submit your case. And you will get a decent adjudication. They have adjudicated in favor of people who bet with these companies and paid out many tens of thousands of pounds sterling to them. That's the third good reason. And the fourth good reason has to do with this issue of attempting to induce me to go down a particular route. And that has to do with the High Court. Because, well, an offer has been made to me by some people who have been helping behind the scenes with this, that perhaps we should go down the claims management company route and launch a class action claim against Betfair. And perhaps I and a couple of others would like, between us, to like take 20% of the potential awards that any court might make and like keep that and give the rest to you guys. And that we would split it up between us. That's the offer that's been made to me. Now, the people making this offer, person making this offer, and anyone listening to them, are dumb for a number of reasons. The first reason they're dumb is that they offered me a third of what I have mostly built up with a lot of time and effort, which was very generous of them to offer me a third of it. That's the first reason you know these are stupid people, because they offered me a third. A smart person would have offered me a bit more than that. The second reason they're dumb, and it's an even bigger reason, is that let me make a counter offer when it comes to the issue of what percentage I want on this. Not 20 or 10 or even 5, not even 2. In fact, better than 1. And this now is non-negotiable. My final offer here, 0%. And furthermore, I want it up front. Now, the fact that they didn't realize that my position is what I'm interested in is 0% of this is another reason why they're dumb. They didn't realize that I was going to reject that out of hand. There's absolutely no way that I'm going to do that. No way. And you see, the problem when somebody starts working like that is they're no longer going to give you independent advice. They're going to start giving you advice that directs you down a route which can potentially enrich them at your expense. So that's not who you want to be taking legal advice from. That's not the kind of motivation you want. You want somebody who's not interested in that. And I have never approached this with that motivation in all the time and all the videos I've done. I never even once mentioned in a video that I had a tip jar. You have to go and look in the video content or whatever to find them. And some people have contributed, and thank you very much for doing so. It helps with this and lots of other work I do. And most of the work I do has no financial recompense at the other end of it. And this is no exception. So that enables me to give independent advice without anything to gain in any of this. And I'm saying that this is a dumb move. This whole idea of going down the legal route is a dumb move without having gone down to IBAS first. Because that fourth reason why IBAS is a smart move is because suppose you do go down to the High Court and you don't bother with IBAS. Some judge is going to ask you a casual question if you do. And those are the ones you really want to worry about, is the ones they ask casually while seeming to be busy with other things like papers on their desk. Have you ever, they will say casually while fiddling around, heard of IBAS, Mr. Jones? And you will go, yes, Your Honour. And the judge will say, oh, I'm very glad to hear that. So you have heard of them. But you felt it was better to not go to them and to come down to me in the High Court here, where, of course, as you well know, we have nothing to do. We're here all day twiddling our thumbs, looking for things to do. So you thought it would be a good way for us to occupy our time. And you didn't bother going to a free dispute resolution service to deal with this matter. That's the nice version of what he'll say to you. The real version is probably far snarkier. High Court judges are pretty good on the old snarky sarcasm. So that's the reality here. And another reality about a class action, which doesn't seem to have dawned on a lot of people who are looking into this issue, is they think this is Volkswagen. They think this is a Volkswagen issue, that, hey, Volkswagen cheated on their fuel emissions, and therefore everybody who has a Volkswagen is entitled to claim in a class action claim. And such a claim is underway. And the only thing you have to do to qualify for that claim is to have a Volkswagen. It's a no-brainer. Have you got a Volkswagen that you bought during this period when they were fiddling with things? Yes. Yep, you're in. That's not what this is. You see, if if a whole bunch of claimants come out of the woodwork down the line on this, a whole bunch of people who put money on with Trump, that's not going to necessarily entitle them to get in on the action. Because what we're saying here is that the early closures caused us to suffer loss. Now, if you put a bet on Trump back in December, back in November, whenever, and then you went off with your mates on a holiday, and then when you came back, you had a really good time over the Christmas, and then sometime in June 2021, you heard that there were some people putting together a class action to go sue Betfair over the Trump bets, and you said, yeah, hey, I'll join in on that too. Betfair are going to be there saying, all of these people are opportunistic leeches who bet on Trump. The bet didn't work out. That's all they knew. That's all they were ever doing was betting on Trump. They were not sophisticated players who were disenfranchised by the early closure of the market. They were just ordinary punters betting on a bet. They bet on the bet. The proof of that is these people never got on to Betfair to complain when it happened, which you might expect them to do if they'd been materially affected to the degree they're now claiming. Furthermore, they never even bothered their arse to go to the independent betting adjudication service to get their matter resolved. Another proof that they're only now post hoc inventing the fact that they were disenfranchised by the early closure. So that's the big problem for a mass class action, is proving. You see, you can't go into court and say, well, my client, Your Honour, as a result of the accident, he's, it's largely okay, but unfortunately now, due to the nature of the injury suffered on his right arm, he'll never play tennis, Your Honour. Never. To which the judge responds, well, the defence is saying that he never has played tennis and is 53 years old now and has never picked up a tennis racket in his life. So the fact that he can't play tennis any longer is not longer, it's not material. He hasn't suffered a material loss. Forget it. So if you bet on Trump and went off down the booze and forgot about it and found out after you woke up after Christmas that your bet didn't work out, you ain't getting anything. And so if I was you, I would post hoc and pronto get my application into IBAS to establish that I am a legitimate claimant. And if you did in fact get onto Betfair and complain and all the rest of that, and go through all the hassle of getting your dispute number, you are, by those actions, proving that you were reasonably saying that you're materially affected by it, because you're demonstrating by your outrage and efforts to get justice on it that such is the case, and you're not a freeloader. So congratulations for getting in and getting it done. So we have many advantages in our favour, and that doesn't mean we're going to get a favourable ruling from IBAS. And also, instructing a barrister does not mean we're going to be told that we have a 2/3 chance of winning a case like this. You must be joking. So, how does all that affect where we go from here? And also Australia? Well, it's all the one. We really are now waiting on IBAS, the best opportunity we have. And I'm afraid that for those of you in Australia and New Zealand, you know, we have an IBAS and they are proactively there. And unfortunately, we also have a system of, to an extent, the word's not perfect, rule of law and an ethical structure in the legal structure of the United Kingdom, which is not there in Australia, which is the wild freaking West. And while I commiserate with you, and I stand in solidarity with you over the situation you're in Australia, up against this rampant crony capitalism, which is deeply entrenched there, it means that you're right up against it in Australia. You do not have the advantages which we have with IBAS here. And so if you were to apply now to the Northern Territories Racing Commission, I feel they would just tell you to get lost, like they've told everybody else to get lost. There must be and have been people who have complained to them about being absolutely told the market would remain open just before they put the money on, and then the market was closed. right? These are the kind of people who are really in a great position. Don't you guys worry if you had direct contact with them where they issued those kinds of instructions. You're in the gold lane on these issues. And so there has been, however, absolutely zip from Northern Territory's Racing Commission about any of that. So, however, if IBAS were to rule in our favour, that would change the situation regarding to what happens in Australia. It would set a precedent which would at least give you a fighting chance. And remember, you need that fighting chance, because going into law is the last thing you want to do. And unless you get a barrister who, and you need a barrister to say that you've got more than likely to win such a case before you'll get insurance. And if you don't have insurance, you're going to have to put your house up. And you're up against a company which is supremely wealthy who can bury you with legal costs. So we need these routes available because they are the best routes to justice, and the ones that don't involve losing more money. So wait is my advice. However, you will be up against the same issue that if you just sort of wait, do absolutely nothing and only complain for later on in the year, then the same attitude can be taken in relation to you, that you are really jumping on a bandwagon, that you weren't actually affected. No, you're going to have to register, and perhaps you already have, your dissatisfaction with what happened. And you're going to have to communicate with Northern Territories, but not seek a ruling right now. And so that's what I'm working on. If you have already had an answer, I'll do a letter to them on that. And if you've never, I'll do a letter up for that, which you can adapt and amend to include your own details, which will say that I am in the process of making a complaint against an operator over the market closure. It's not about who won. It's not about fraud. It's about the timing of the market closure and how that affected me, and the advices that Betfair gave to clients, etc. That's what it's about. It's about those kinds of issues. And as part of preparing to make such a case, I am developing the case, and in order to see how that development of my legal argument goes, I'm awaiting an outcome from IBAS in the United Kingdom. And then when I see that, that will have an effect on how I frame my arguments, and then I'll finalize my arguments and submit them later on this year, or later, subsequent to the IBAS determination. But I'm telling you, Northern Territories Racing Commission, right now that I'm disputing this, and that I'll be in touch with you so that you will know later on this year when I come back to you that this is a genuine complaint, and it's not that I have just left until now for no good reason. I have been awaiting an outcome of how arguments on this issue have been dealt with in the United Kingdom. Bang, and so you still have the door open there. Now, if it all comes down to it, and it all comes down to it, right, and we get nowhere with IBAS and we have to sit down and look at this, then this will need a lot of very careful looking at. And my advice for how we would move forward then is that in order to minimize the financial impact on any one individual, then it becomes a where we go one, we go all. Not a where I go, I make 20% out of you all. No. But a small, we could actually get this off the ground with something like 30 to 50 sterling, or 70, 80 Australian dollars a head to start, and if 100 or so of us got together, we could do that, but we'd want to think carefully. And in the meantime, we'd want to continue sounding out and taking soundings in legal circles on the quality of the case, etc., etc. But holding fire, which I think any good solicitor would advise a client to do right now. If someone walked in the door right now, they would advise them to take the matter to IBAS first and see how you get on there. It's free. Smart move, a smart thing to do. So we will keep a careful eye on that, and we will wait for Betfair to meet their comeuppance at some point in these proceedings. Justice is often very hard to find, but perhaps we can find fairness in this situation. Anyhow, I will be emailing out that update for Australian New Zealand folks. I'll email out those letters, which you can get into Northern Territories Racing Commission. And as I say, continue to take legal soundings and see how we stand on that front, just to keep ourselves occupied. But one of the things we're going to have to deploy now is patience. IBAS will take some time to reach a decision. Even the longer they take, in some ways, the better, as far as we're concerned. But I felt that they will wait until they got the majority of claims in before beginning to rule. You know, so they wait until the flood is over, so to speak. And I know many people have applied in the last couple of weeks. And so maybe that's beginning to tail off. If you haven't already gotten on to Betfair chat to get details of your bets sent to you and to register your dispute with them and to get an IBAS number, do it. Get your claim into IBAS. It's our best chance. And we will monitor the situation. And you can keep up to date. Anything material happens, I'm going to put out a video and send it out. But you can also keep up to date with developments on the Telegram group and on the Facebook group as well. All right, that's it. I'll be back with developments as they occur, and the best of luck to those of you who are about to get on to Betfair belatedly to kick this thing off. Just take it easy, follow the instructions. You'll find them pinned in the Telegram group, and that should go okay for you. All right, take care, folks. Talk to you soon.